Oh, they said the same thing about Ukraine.
No.
Listen, man, the reason why when people say we have to watch this very carefully or you have to be scared, be very scared, I don't take it seriously anymore because they're giving us something new to be scared about every fucking week. And they've been doing that since the 90s. Now, which is as early as my memory goes. Now, has it escalated? Of course it has. Now you have 3 new things a day to be terrified of. But they were saying that if Ukraine didn't win this conflict, if this conflict in Ukraine was not won and we didn't support them, it was going to be slavery for the entire world under the Russian rule. And hey, man, now all of a sudden we're not giving them a whole lot of support anymore because we got this Israel thing. Yeah. And hey, guess what's not happening? Russia isn't going to take over the world. It looks like it was just an isolated conflict. So tell me why this Israel-Palestine thing. Tell me why this is any different. Why is this worthy of my fear?
I'd like to be a sponsor.
Who starts looking at you like you're a sponsor?
The older ladies, and they want someone to support them.
The older ladies.
The older ones. They want security. Or you get the young ones that got divorced from their husbands or had bums for husbands, and they're looking for somebody older with a little more secure money to take care of the family. And their morals will go down the toilet bowl. They say, I'm doing this for my kids. Right. Okay.
Well, I mean, the stereotype,
yeah,
of course, is that the younger, attractive ladies will hook up with the, let's say, older, more distinguished gentlemen because of money and experience. And, you know, when I mean, that's the stereotype. It's that the older ladies, what you call the cougars.
The cougars.
You know, they're just
they're going for the last ride.
They seem a little nasty.
Yeah. They can't say they never do that.
There's not a lot of subtlety to that creature.
Let's knock off the games and get right down to business.
Hey, man, I'm okay with that. Let's get right down to business. Let's do it.
Hey, as long as you agree to it.
What do you want? What do I have to offer? What do I want? What do you have to offer? But, I mean, it loses a lot of the magic when it becomes so transactional.
Come on. The magic's gone when you're 30 years old. There ain't no more fucking magic. There's a hole and you got the pole and that's the way it goes.
Jesus Christ. Man, that's the way you see it, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Romance? What's romance? You're nothing but a male and female animal. Go to it.
We ain't nothing but mammals.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Right? I don't know.
I seen a picture of who was that? Jane Fonda.
Okay.
She's 86 years old.
Yeah.
She looks pretty good. But the thing is, she's still 85 years old.
Yeah.
And that's what the way it is. And she can't say she hasn't been doing those things. How much more can you do?
I don't know.
It's the same old game. It's like the hamster cage. You're running around there again.
The hamster wheel?
The hamster wheel.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm going to be honest. I have absolutely no desire to have any type of sexual relationship with anybody else at all. Well, and I haven't for some years. Now, I'm only 43 43, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
43 years old. And I just I don't know, man. It seems like it's a lot of
It's a lot of games.
well, and it does feel like what you called the hamster wheel. You know, it's like, oh, I've been here before. I know what's about to happen next. And I mean, don't get me wrong, some of that could become self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, if you expect something to happen next, you could end up making it happen. Like, oh, okay, here's where she's gonna suggest that we take our relationship to the next level.
Right.
She wants to move in, or oh, I now she's starting to leave some things overnight
Right.
in my
The
bathroom. She never
nesting
takes home.
attitude.
What's that?
The nesting attitude.
Yeah, and you start to see it, and I'm sure that men have telltale signs for what they're about to do next as well. But I mean, once you've gone through that a few times, there is, I don't know, I don't want to say that it's an illusion, the what I call the magic or the romance, but it's not necessarily a part of a sexual relationship, and you can have that type of mystery and magic without having a sexual relationship. You can have somebody that you're very close to, in my opinion, that it's not a sexual relationship, but you know, you're interested, you share, you spend time together.
It's a matter of convenience. Both need something. One supplies the security, the other supplies the security of the house and takes care of the house, that when you come home, you don't have to take care of the stuff. Could you imagine a man have to vacuum, cook the meal, do the dishes, do his laundry, and take all that time up?
Can I imagine it? I've done it. I've done it my whole life. So yeah, I can imagine it.
No.
I mean, even when I cohabitated with a female, I was the one who was cooking and cleaning. It weren't them. They weren't. The women
What was the trade-off?
The women I end up with are not very clean animals. They're kind of filthy. So, yeah, the trade-off was it wasn't transactional. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't transactional. I wanted to be around the person, and I assumed they wanted to be around me. That's all it was. There was no transaction.
Yeah, it's all wasted on young people. They get the magic and they think, oh, this is great. Then it gets in, they start to settle in, and hey, it's not no more fun.
Right.
It's like an act. Oh, we're doing this play over again. We don't want that. We don't want to do this play over again. It's like, who the hell wants an old man like me? I'm a security blanket. I know that. I know that from the get-go. I went through that.
But let me ask you something. You went through it. But, I mean, it was a good experience while you were having it, wasn't it?
It was a good learning process.
I look at growing up, you know, there's a huge difference between a toddler and an adult human being. Now, I can remember being a toddler. I'm assuming you can as well. I remember it being a wonderful experience. But I think when people say, you know, when they look at things in their past through rose-colored glasses, what do people call? They call it graduation goggles. Graduation goggles is like you kind of hated high school, but once you graduate and you sit down with your yearbook a couple years later and you look back at all the people, all that comes to mind is the fond memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have any desire to go back to that sort of thing, but I do remember it fondly, but I have no desire to go back. You know what I mean?
Oh, once you get comfortable with somebody, then you see all the faults there, or all the responsibility you get when they get sick
Right.
and they get medical problems,
Sure.
and you're there, and they expect you to take care of the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and it works on two ends. I remember when I had a virus, and it was a stomach virus. It was pretty bad, and I ran to the bathroom, and I threw up in the toilet bowl, and I coughed up blood.
Ugh, that's no good.
My wife panicked.
Yeah.
She called the ambulance.
Sure.
But after I threw up, I felt fine. I spent 3 days in the hospital, and they did all the tests on the stomach. They found nothing.
Mm.
And in that 3 days, she couldn't come down because she didn't drive.
Oh.
Even her friends didn't even want to come down.
Right.
So when I got released from the hospital, she got somebody from the ambulance corps to pick me up and take me home.
Okay.
She thought I was going to die.
Well, hey, man, I probably would have thought the same thing, because if somebody throws up blood, which I do every couple months, I assume it's because they drink too much. So I know why I throw up blood all the time. It's because I drink too much.
Right.
But you don't drink, so I would have panicked too. I was, oh shit,
What else could it be?
Harry's on his way out.
Harry's going to go out, and a lot of people are going to come to the funeral and look at me just to check out that I'm dead.
Well, they're gonna want to come down and make sure you stay dead.
Oh,
You
they may kill me in the box.
So on that note, I know that you've kind of started some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it like outreach, community outreach, but you have all of this canned food that never goes bad, military surplus storage stuff, and you realize that you probably have about 400 years worth of...
Yeah, I have to be 400 years old to eat all the stuff.
Yeah, so you've started giving a lot of it away, and I think you've met a few interesting...
I met 3 people that got it, and I gave them like 10 cans each.
It's interesting. They all seem to be pretty interesting characters.
Yeah, but they're telling me about what they found out about what's going on. But I've been there. I lived it. So
Yeah.
I know what's coming down.
Okay.
Don't tell me about past history, about Ultra and about...
MK Ultra? Yeah. The gentleman who came over today was talking to you about MK Ultra.
I remember the atomic soldiers in 53. I seen the shit that went on in Vietnam.
Wait. What's the atomic soldiers? What is that?
1953, when they did the explosion in New Mexico,
Yeah.
they had troops in a foxhole.
Okay.
And when the bomb went off, they gave them goggles, and they had to stand up and look at the explosion.
Were they within the blast radius?
Yeah.
So they all ended up with like cancer and shit?
Yeah.
Oh,
Same
wow.
thing with the hydrogen bomb with the ships out in the Bikini Atoll. The Navy sent out ships there.
Okay, I don't know what Bikini Atoll is.
That's an island in the Pacific that they set off the hydrogen bomb, and they had the sailors standing on the ships with just goggles looking towards the blast.
Right.
And they got cancer too.
Lovely.
So they and 20 years down the line, they checked on these guys, and these guys were dying.
Yeah.
Just like the Trade Center when they went down. They got more people dying now of all kinds of respiratory problems.
Well, I know that there's a lot of respiratory illnesses that, if you believe the consensus, at least what we're seeing online, most people that are talking about this are blaming the air quality after 9/11 for...
The air quality was bad because when I worked on the buildings, I know what went in the buildings.
Sure.
And I was lucky. I did not work on the buildings to clean it up. So that's why I think I got escaped all that shit.
Right.
But it's 25 years later, and most of the guys I work for, they're dying. 10 to 15% of the people are dying of all kinds of respiratory shit.
I think Jon Stewart. Are you familiar with Jon Stewart? He did the Daily Show. He's the comedian. I think he's a huge proponent of these people who, especially first responders after 9/11. Yeah. He's a huge proponent of them getting their due medical benefits and packages because these guys are all suffering very similar ailments, and the government keeps like shutting down their.
Well, in 3 years, they had a lot of firemen die. They had that one firehouse that was down there. 90% of those guys are dead.
90% of one firehouse?
One firehouse.
Okay.
All died because they were the first people there.
Wow. So they're all dead.
Yeah, and they all died of something. And then the volunteers that went down there, well, they're getting nothing.
Yeah.
So now they got some law firm that's fighting for them. But it's the game.
Yeah, it's really weird to me how our government is more than willing to play its hand on the world stage. Giving how many billions of dollars to the Ukraine, how many billions of dollars to Israel. But when it comes to, giving people benefits here at home or taking care of veterans or taking care of first responders, they're very, very tight-fisted.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, it's obvious that we have the money. It's there if we want it. It's created when we need to use it. So it's basically the people who are controlling our tax money making a judgment call. This is worth it. That is not. And it seems to me that most of the money they invest overseas is for the benefit of transnational corporations, not necessarily the American public at large.
Well, they control it, and maybe we're guinea pigs, and they want to see, okay, well, we're going to let's see 20 years down the line how many people are going to die of the disease.
Yeah.
They did the same thing with Agent Orange. For 30 years.
And anybody that thinks that that's a conspiracy theory, my neighbor, when I was growing up in northern Jersey, my neighbor, her husband was a Vietnam veteran, and he was exposed to Agent Orange, and all of their children had birth defects, and it was one of those situations where their firstborn, nothing terrible, until he got to be about 9 or 10, and then he started to go through puberty. At 10 years old, started to go through puberty. So he's like this little kid, like a typical 10-year-old size, but he's getting hair, he's got a mustache, a little mustache, his voice is getting deeper, he's starting to have emotional outbursts because he's getting all these, like a typical teenager, somebody who's 13 or 14.
But it's enhanced.
He's going through it at 10. It was wild. And then they had 4 children, and every child that they had consecutively had worse and worse birth defects. It was pretty wild. And I witnessed that firsthand.
Well, you've seen the results.
Yes, I did.
So therefore, you can't deny that.
Yeah. No, I definitely wouldn't deny that. And I think it's interesting. I still meet people today who think that, the Agent Orange thing is FUBAR.
Do you think working down the subway was safe?
Nothing's safe.
No, they were putting viruses down the subway, and we caught them 3 times.
What do you mean they were putting viruses?
They were in 1957 and 63 or something, and 1972.
Wait a second, 1957. All right, how fucking old are you?
I'm going to turn 77.
What year were you born?
1946.
All right, 46 to 57. You were not working in the subway when you were 11 years old.
But when I went there, I got from the old men that were working there.
Yeah.
and they told me what
They
went
told you
on.
about it. Okay,
But
I got
we
you.
did catch them in 72
Okay.
on Marcy Avenue, putting an air quality test right between 42nd Street and Grand Central,
Jesus Christ.
and they did a flu epidemic in 1957, and they were testing the flu virus.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting to me that of all the things that what's typically called the deep state, you know, the CIA, the military industrial complex, the FBI, DOJ, whoever you want to call the deep state.
Whatever the alphabet calls it.
Yeah, all those alphabet institutions, you know, not NGOs specifically, although NGOs are to a large extent part of the deep state as well, in my opinion. At least they're utilized quite well. You know, all the things that we have evidence of, that we know now, even that they admit that they have done, like MK Ultra and things like that, everybody seems to have this attitude like, well, that was then. They did that stuff back in the past, but today everything's better. Everything's better today.
Really?
They're not doing that stuff anymore. That's interesting to me.
So I take my meter and go to everybody's house and test their smart meter. So I go to the towers in Milford,
Yeah.
where they got the car wash, and walk towards that meter, and it goes to 2,000 rems.
All right, so let me set this up a little bit. So you're very on board with this theory that now we have electrical meters on our houses. They measure the amount of kilowatt hours that you're using,
Yes.
so that you can be billed by the electric
Right.
company. Now they changed these meters to be what they call smart meters,
Right.
where the company doesn't have to send a worker out to your house. They can remotely take your meter reading. So it's giving off, I don't know, like a
RF, radio frequency.
okay, a radio frequency. It's kind of like Wi-Fi, but it's a
Wi-Fi,
radio. It's on a different
EMP.
spectrum. It's a radio
Right.
frequency. So you have a meter that's measuring
the frequencies that's coming off it.
well, it's actually measuring. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's measuring the strength of the electromagnetism.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So you think that when you get a meter reading, where there's a tremendous amount of electromagnetism, you're equating that with ill health effects. Could you tell me why you think that electromagnetism?
It's radiation, radio frequencies. It's dealing with your DNA, and I make the Shungai products to stop them.
Right.
And I go to people's houses, and just like I get a cone, I'll put it right next to your modem, and I'll show you.
And shungite is something that is where we mine it from.
No, you get it from
It
Russia.
comes from Russia. Most people think that because that's the only place that we found it, it must be some sort of deposit that came from a meteorite.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a material that's not largely found on Earth.
Right.
It's speculated that, and I haven't done a ton of research
Right.
into it, but it's speculated that it has properties that shield electromagnetic
What
frequencies.
it does is captures the signal, goes through it, and breaks it up
Breaks it up.
to a safe level.
Right. So, I mean, it seems to me that when you're taking your electromagnetic meter and you're measuring those frequencies, I mean, are you assuming that certain frequencies that everybody else says are safe, from the research that you've done, you're saying that those frequencies aren't safe? Because, I mean, you do have Wi-Fi. You're
Yes.
comfortable with Wi-Fi.
But I got shungite around this house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you go ask Dr. Robert Olar in Milford about radiation treatments,
Mhm.
which is the same thing, or Dr. Bennett from British Columbia, who has a red shield, which is like a 40 years into high energy electrical engineering degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I have other doctors, and I have papers from 12 different doctors around the world about this smart meter stuff
Right.
and how it causes damages.
Okay.
I took Med Ed to court, and I took him all the way to the appellate court in front of the 9 judges.
Okay.
And the next step would have been the Supreme Court.
So you're saying that frequencies that, generally speaking, the FCC tells us are safe to be around, you're saying that they're lying, and they're doing that with a profit motive.
Now, Pennsylvania made it mandatory to do the smart meters on the house. But that's because they paid off Senator Goldsfeld and gave his son a job as vice president for the Pennsylvania Electric and Gas Company down in Philly.
Yeah.
A job as vice president.
Okay.
As a payoff.
Okay.
And Goldsfeld retired with a golden package from the power company.
Well, we were talking about that. The way that money trades hands. We were talking about that because we were talking about the art world a while back. Yeah. And, because I'm planning on perhaps having a show coming up here in March. And we were talking, I turned you on to the fact that the art world is really used for money laundering. It's really used to get a lot of money quickly and safely and legally into somebody else's hands that you want to give the money to. And a lot of what our government seems to do is the same thing that the mob used to do. No show jobs.
Right.
Now you have this job and you have this salary that's pretty high that you're getting you're getting all the time, but you never really have to show up or do anything.
Right. You don't have to do anything.
Right.
Back in the 60s, the MTA was running their own generators on DC.
Yeah, you told me about that.
They transferred to Med Ed or Con Edison to buy electric from the power companies, and it went through the government.
Right.
So I know somebody got paid off or someone got a favor done. So now the city of New York runs their power from Con Edison, which is Med Ed.
And you're talking about, you're not talking about residential service. You're talking about the city itself.
The city itself
used to have its own generators for like the subway system and things like that. Yeah.
And they closed their jobs down and they switched over to the AC.
Now, I mean, we know because of Tesla that AC is safer, so maybe it was a safety issue?
It could be.
And maybe it was cheaper to just put everything on Con Ed's lines than it was to build new generators and a new system.
True. Well, then again, you got to go back to our father of electric and frequencies, Tesla.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. Tesla had all the patents, and everything we have today electrically comes from Tesla. But theory-wise,
when you say that there must have been a payoff because the city of New York decided to transfer from DC to AC, I mean, it sounds like you're saying that corruption is evident in that decision, and what I'm saying is perhaps they decided to transfer to AC because it's a better system. Doesn't necessarily mean it's evidence of a corrupt system, right?
Well, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Because somebody makes money on it.
It's amazing. Yeah, everybody always makes money on everything. Yes. Except for me and you. But it's interesting to me that, all these interesting people that came over today, and I was talking to the gentleman for a minute before they left. They came into the studio, and you were telling them about the podcast that we do and stuff like that. And he was trying to turn me on to the Pandora documents, and it seemed like he was, and then he was saying that Trump has evidence of this and this and that. And it seemed to me to be very Q-based. And I'm surprised that you don't know anything about the QAnon conspiracy theory.
I know about Trump and the chemtrails, because he was having a picture of him in an airplane doing the chemtrails.
A picture of Trump in an airplane doing the chem... What do you mean he was doing the chemtrails?
He's seen all the tanks, all the seats were out, and there were nothing but big water tanks there, and there was chemicals in there. So
there's a picture of Trump in a plane. Is he in the air?
No, he's on the ground.
So he was inspecting a plane to look
I
at
don't
what
know,
chemicals
it was a couple years ago, but he was there.
Okay.
And it was an unmarked plane.
It really is amazing to me that you're not in the queue. I would meet you and think that you are. Oh, this guy's got to be totally into Q.
No, I met the guy that was in queue with the buffalo head.
January 6th.
Yeah, I was there.
So you met the QAnon shaman.
Yes.
What's his name again?
His name was Jim, and he was an ex-Navy veteran from the Middle East War.
Yeah.
I also met the Proud Boys with all their flat jackets and everything on.
And you told me that you got a picture with the QAnon shaman.
Right.
The guy with the bullhorns
Right.
and
Because I had my
that.
flag down there.
Yeah. So you had your
Upside down American flag
so
with the SWAT sticker and the IRS on it.
Yeah, and the IRS.
I often wondered why the FBI didn't come to my door.
Well, so do I. I mean, everything that happened after January 6th, you were down there on January 6th. Yes. You got a picture with the QAnon shaman.
And the Proud Boy.
And you're waving around an upside down American flag with a swastika and the letters IRS on it. And somehow you're still sitting here instead of in a federal penitentiary. You're very lucky.
Well, maybe lucky, or maybe because I beat the IRS in court, they got my number. And they said, "Whoa, we don't want to push this guy's button."
You think they're just kind of throwing their hands up when they see you, and they're like,
"Oh,
no, not that guy."
Maybe he'll go away like a bad mosquito. So they're leaving me alone, and as long as I don't have no followers.
Right.
I have very few people that I show them, but they don't believe what I show them.
Right.
And so therefore, I got no following.
Right.
Not like my friend Irving Schiff that was killed by the government, too, because he had a following.
Allegedly.
And, Irv, you're going to come back. We're going to make sure you come back.
We will get Irving Schiff on the ghost. The ghost of Irving Schiff is now inhabiting a puppet.
Yep.
And we are going to get him on the podcast as soon as possible.
Oh, you got to use your magic to bring him around.
Oh, I invoke the spirit of Alex Jones at least once a month, and possess the carcass of my brother with the spirit of Alex Jones. So I can definitely possess a puppet with the spirit of an anti-IRS survivalist. That's no problem. I have these powers.
Let's get
Harry.
Alex Jones
I have these
and
powers.
Schiff together.
Ooh.
Could you imagine them president and vice president of this country?
Alex Jones and Irving Schiff.
As president and vice president.
Well, I tell you what, man, I have a hell of an imagination. I can imagine a lot. Would it be a good thing for this country or anybody in it? That's another question altogether. But I can imagine quite a bit. I'm an imaginative motherfucker.
and let's bring Joe Rogan in and put him in charge of the military.
Well, dude, I told you the idea that I had for... We're definitely doing this video. I'm going to have puppets made of Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Joe Rogan. And America... Joe Rogan is going to host the presidential debate.
Yay!
And America, you're welcome. I'm going to make it happen here with the magic of crazy Catwoman and satanic vampire. So we'll get it done. We'll get it done.
We'll wake him up.
Hey, listen, and people will say, well, that's not the real presidential debate. Those are just puppets. And I say, hey, motherfucker, what's real? You saw it. It happened. So there you go. You got your wish.
And the Democrats are having a problem right now. Who are they going to put forward for president? The word is they don't want to put Biden for president.
Dude.
Because he'll be running the country from a nursing home.
What do you think about the Florida thing? where they closed down the primaries. They just said we're not having our... Now, I don't know how any of this shit works, but this is what I heard. Florida is not going to have their DNC primary. So it's either Biden or nothing. You don't get to cast a vote. Nobody gets to speak against Biden. Nobody gets to have their message. That's wild.
Welcome to Russia.
Holy shit. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
It is.
That's amazing.
That's when guys like me are going to come out of the woodwork, and everybody I've been telling for a long time, I'm going to say, we remember when this guy told me this shit was going to happen. Well, it's here, baby.
Yeah, but Harry, you never vote Democrat anyway, I'm assuming.
No.
No, so you don't really care about the DNC.
No, I don't never like Democrats.
But
Libertarian and Republican, maybe, but the Republicans today are not real Republicans. They're nothing but a bunch of waffles that flip every time they do because they got paid off too.
So are you familiar with the term rhino?
Yeah.
I figured you would
yeah.
be. So that you're familiar with. But
Yeah.
you're not familiar with Q.
No, I'm not.
Harry, I'm going to turn you on to Q. You ready to
Yeah.
go down a rabbit hole?
Hey, I was down a rabbit hole with the weathermen in the 60s.
The weatherman. Who's the weatherman?
The Black Liberation Army, Patty Hearst,
Okay.
the weathermen, Abby Hoffman, Kathleen Bodine, the bombing in West 4th Street down in the area where they had the bomb factory in the house.
Uh-huh.
Go ask the New York City cop about the weathermen.
I don't know anything about this.
Well, you won't even think about it.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look. I want to know about this. This seems important.
I got Abby
A
Hoffman's
piece
book.
of history that I'm not aware of. And this incident was in the 60s.
The weathermen.
Let's see what this shit's all about. Originally called the Weathermen or the Weatherman or the Weathermen, a name taken from a line in a Bob Dylan song, the Weather Underground was a small, violent offshoot of Students for a Democratic Society, or SDS, a group created in the turbulent 60s to promote social change. But Weather Underground Bombings, FBI. Ooh, that's a .gov website? I'm not going on that. Where's Wikipedia? I don't want to end up on a list. Weather Underground. Here we go. I don't know anything about this. This is fascinating. We're sorry to ask you, in recent times we know things are hard, but Wikipedia needs your support, and we have never, ever been accused or found guilty of censoring information. Please report Wikipedia. Please support us. Yeah. Wikipedia censored information so bad during the pandemic. They were right up there with the government and the FBI, and oh my God. Wikipedia. I used to love Wikipedia. Nowadays, not so much, but let's see what they have to say about the Weather Underground. Weather Underground was a far-left Marxist militant organization, 1969, the Summer of Love. Founded on the Ann Arbor campus of the University of Michigan, originally known as the Weathermen. Faction of Students for a Democratic Society, blah, blah, blah. The FBI described it as a domestic terrorist group. Yeah, but they would describe you and me as a domestic terrorist group. So that doesn't really hold a lot of water for a lot of people anymore. Hey, guess what? If you say something they disagree with, they can label you a terrorist now. I mean, that's pretty strange.
When I had when I went against the bank, 2 Treasury agents were in the court questioning me when I went after the banks.
Yeah.
With the mortgage fraud.
Yeah. Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I told you about Jesse the Body Ventura's thing.
Yeah.
He claims that after he won he was the governor, right?
Governor of Michigan.
After he won that race, he had CIA agents show up at his office and question him and say, hey, how did you win that? How did you do that? Like it's something that's not supposed to happen.
Oh, it was not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I think Humphrey ran against him. they had $700 billion, something like, in surplus, and the Democrats were going to divide it up.
Yeah.
Well, he gave $700 to every citizen in Michigan.
So somebody's pockets got a little lighter, and they were pissed
slush
off.
Fund
Yeah,
was going to go to the politicians.
I gotcha. Right.
They should have known Jesse the Body because he was an ex-Navy SEAL. They had a foul on him.
I don't know, man. Whenever we get to the point where we're saying, you know, they should have known him.
Right.
I mean, it's just people, and there's a lot of different interests within the government, or what we call they. There's a lot of different interests. It's not a cohesive group,
right.
You know?
Well, it's the corporation.
Corporations.
And if you remember years ago when they said they could give you 100 miles to a gallon on a car, and all those people that invented all that stuff, they had accidents.
Yeah.
The guy who made the gas turbine that burned anything, he got killed in New Mexico.
Uh-huh.
The guy who built the transfer case down in Florida, he took a transfer case and put it in a Dodge Dart, and he got 107 miles to the gallon. It was a transfer case from a backhoe or something.
You know what the biggest piece of evidence that I have personally that we could have internal combustion engines that get far better gas mileage than we have, and there is some type of conspiracy to keep consuming as much gasoline as they can get away with, is the fact that if you go on YouTube and you look at old car commercials from back when I was a kid, the 80s, the 90s, you'll see that's like, hey, here's the new Ford whatever, or here's the new Chevy, and EPA rated up to 36 miles per gallon, as if that's something that's like never happened before. And you look at car commercials today for, you know, other than EV and you know, the dual cars, the hybrids. Other than that, when you have a pure, you know, they're touting the same line, up to 36 miles per gallon, like it's something that's never happened before. And I'm sitting here going, motherfucker, you've been advertising that as a really high miles per gallon for 40 fucking years. You've been making that sound incredible since I've been a child. It's obvious. The people don't have any memory.
No, they don't. I had a Ford Falcon with a single barrel carburetor, and I got 45 miles to the gallon.
Did you?
Yes.
Holy fucking shit. 45?
Yeah, the single barrel.
You measured it yourself. 45.
40? Yeah, I did.
Holy shit.
It was a flathead 6 carburetor, and I got 45 to the gallon. A friend of mine bought a 52 Dodge sedan, black, plain and simple, and he drove it, and the gas needle never moved.
Wow.
There was an experimental carburetor on it, and he thought there was something wrong with it. He run around, and he tried to put some gas in it, and it goes, click. It was full.
Holy shit.
And then they took it to the dealer, and the dealer, he said, the gas gauge didn't work. I don't know what the hell it is. Next thing I know, 2 weeks later, he gets his car back, and the needle starts going down. And
so wait a second, the mechanic fucked with it?
No, they ripped off that carburetor.
So
it's an experimental carburetor.
So was this factory, or he modified the car?
No, it's factory.
So the factory had an experimental carburetor, and what company was this?
This was Dodge. Dodge, the Dodge people.
Okay.
And they took it off this 52 sedan, and then he started using gas.
Wow.
And then he looked on there, he said, that's not the same carburetor that was on there. I said, no, they ripped it off.
So why do you think a mechanic would do that?
No, the company told the mechanic to take it off. Because if you had this carburetor, someone could copy it, and you could put it on Dodges.
So it's kind of like when the first mass-produced electric car in recent history, because I know we had electric cars back in the early 1900s. before the internal combustion motor became the standard, which anybody can go look up. You turned me on to this. I was like, really? And then you showed me the evidence. Yeah, we had steam-powered cars, we had electric-powered cars, right. And then the internal combustion engine became the standard. So since that time, I don't know if you remember this, but the first mass-produced electric car was generally confined to California. And I think Ford created it or something. It was in the 90s.
In the 90s?
Yeah, you remember this, don't you? And then the legislation that forced the car company, I think it was Ford, to create all of these electric vehicles for the California market.
Oh, that was the Chevy people.
Was it Chevy?
The Volt.
The Volt.
The Volt.
Yeah,
94.
Chevy. Yeah. And then they wouldn't let anybody buy this car.
No.
You could only lease it. And then once the legislation in California was repealed, they were like, hey, we're recalling all these cars, and they junked them. They all went into compactors, and they junked them. You couldn't buy it outright. They wouldn't let you. That's pretty wild.
Oh, you got to remember Tucker in 55. Tucker was not allowed to produce his cars. He put a motor from a helicopter that he got from Howard Hughes in the back of a car, and he had to buy scrap steel from the junkyard, and he built 50 Tuckers. Okay. And they were faster than anything else on the market. Detroit didn't want to retool their equipment.
Okay.
And there's about maybe 3 or 4 Tucker cars that's still around. And what they did is like the Corvair with the rear engine.
Okay.
Corvair was about 67.
So with the Tucker cars, this was a company
that
did this?
Tucker used to make stuff for the military.
Okay.
He made a small little...
Tucker is an individual?
Yes, okay. He was an individual.
Okay.
And he made a little vehicle with a machine gun on it that you could run around.
Well, who wouldn't want to buy one of those?
The U.S. Army.
I want to buy one of those.
The U.S. Army. And they didn't take it because it went faster than 35 miles an hour.
Oh, why don't they want a vehicle that goes faster than 35 miles an hour?
They don't want to win the battle.
Oh.
So think of this. If you got a little car with a guy running around a machine gun, and you go into battle, and you're like the chariot, and you're going through the enemy, and you're taking them out.
You're doing circles around the enemy.
You're doing circles around the enemy.
Yeah.
Or you go around a tank, and you're just shooting everybody up.
Right.
And all the soldiers behind the tank are getting shot up because the tank can only do 30 miles an hour.
I gotcha.
They want to control the speed.
I gotcha. Well, I've heard a lot of conspiracies, too, especially from veterans of Vietnam. So you could maybe speak to this. And I know that you were primarily on the ship. You were a cook. Right. But you had a lot of relationships with the combat folks. And what I've heard is there were a lot of orders given to soldiers in the field to stand down or to not engage, or I mean, they were really, the orders that the soldiers were given were very circumscribed in order to make the battle more difficult. They never said this, but the theory is, you know, when you're telling us we can't do X, Y, and Z,
right,
and there's no other reason to tell us we can't do these things other than to prolong the battle, obviously that has to be the reason why you're telling us this.
General Anthony Herbert was a general, and he was with the airborne, and he was with a helicopter thing. His people did not go through the jungle and get hit with the traps. He took the helicopters and he went right on top of Charlie, and he dropped his people right on top of Charlie.
Okay.
I mean, they jumped out of the helicopters and they won most of their battles.
Seriously, that was actually a tactic that worked.
I got his book, his survival book.
Holy shit.
And I got it signed. I got 0048. And he only had 50,000 books made.
Okay.
And I got it signed.
Nice.
He was from 53 to about 69. He was in the military.
Okay.
And he had less casualties. And he really kicked the shit out of Charlie.
Mm.
Because you got to remember, you got about 8, 12 guys in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
And they come at you and they drop in 50, 75 feet on top of the village.
Okay.
Because the helicopters were the horses of the cavalry back in those days.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, we still use helicopters today for the same thing. I mean,
But they don't jump out of airplanes no more.
Right.
The only people that jump out of airplanes are the dirty ops teams, like the SEALs and the recon and the alphabet people. They jump people. And they skydive into their areas.
Right.
And some of these guys, they were told, you can't go into the Golden Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we were never in Cambodia.
We all know at this point that that's bullshit. But
yes.
But what I heard from a lot of gentlemen who were there in combat situations, they could have easily won most of the battles that they found themselves in. But it was almost like the orders they were given tied their hands.
Well, keep the combat going. Let's keep spending the money.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean that's the theory. That's and I mean it seems like with the amount of military prowess this country has, it should be fairly easy to win almost any engagement that we find ourselves in. So the reason why we have wars that last for 20 fucking years, obviously it's because they want them to last for 20 years.
No, that's why the Middle East war lasts a long time, because there was all corporations in there, and corporations were making money.
Right.
And they were using the military as a cover.
Well, a Talking Head and I were having that discussion on a podcast. I think I put it up a couple weeks ago. It seems odd to me that after so many years in Afghanistan, it almost looks like we pull out overnight. There's news footage of people falling off planes trying to get out of this fucking place. The Taliban takes over right away. And then a week later, hey, guess what? Now we're engaged in the Ukraine. I mean, it's almost like we needed to move our assets because we saw something coming up that was more profitable.
Was it planned?
I don't know. Looks that way, doesn't it? It looks kind of wild. It looks crazy.
Well, you got to remember, Russia has an army. Russia's army, they don't play.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in Afghan too, and Iraq and those places, and they got their ass kicked there, and they pulled out.
Right.
You cannot beat those people in those mountains. They've been fighting for 3,000 years.
Yeah.
And you are not going to be the people that take life so lightly that they're willing to put a bomb on there in a vest and walk up into your building and blow you up.
Well, you have a point there. If somebody's, it's like the old Eminem line, what are you going to do against the guy who cuts himself, or whatever the fucking line is? Yeah, if you're willing to blow yourself up, how do you combat something like that? But it seems to me, just as a broad, looking at it from painting with a broad brush or looking at it from 20,000 feet, it seems our perpetual warfare seems strategic. It doesn't look like it's because we can't win. It looks like it's because we don't want to win.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the military complex wants to keep the war going. It's a form of population control.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Taking our forces out, our energy, and put in another country, so now they're putting the immigrants in.
Yeah.
Now who's going to fight the immigrants? Now they talk about taking the immigrants into the military.
Now what are you talking about? The immigrants here?
Yes.
What are you talking about with the
We're
with
talking
the
about
immigrants?
the ones from those from Mexico through the cartel.
Yeah.
They're joining the military.
They're joining the military?
And they've been promised citizenship.
If they fight, kind of like what we did with the Irish back in the Civil War days.
And the area is that if they get citizenship, they become votes for the Democrats.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And they become a secret cell in here.
A secret cell? What do you mean by secret cell?
The cells, like the Muslims. They are Muslims, and they're joining our military, and so we train them. They do their 2-4 years, and they get out.
How many Muslims are coming up from Mexico, dude?
A lot.
There's Muslims in Mexico? A lot of Muslims in Mexico?
Oh, yeah. They come through Canada and they go through Mexico.
I thought Mexico was basically a Catholic.
No. You got
country.
Chinese coming through. You got people from all the way from South America, and they all Marxism.
Yeah.
And that's what they believe.
Yeah.
That's what they've been brought up with.
I don't know how many Muslims are coming up from Mexico. Where'd you hear this?
Well, they say there's more immigrants in this country, more than 9 states we got.
I know there's a lot of unchecked immigration,
but
like
they just dropped them off at somewhere in Kentucky, and they said it was Chicago. They don't know. So now you're taking the states, you're weakening the states, and now they go on your public assistance of welfare.
Well, I know that you keep up with the immigration issue quite a bit, and I do not. I just generally, if people would say they have core principles, which I do not make that claim about myself, but my general feeling is that human beings should be allowed to have absolute freedom of movement across the entire globe because we are
global citizens.
Ideally, right? But it doesn't work with the system that we have now because you can have an area that has a surplus of goods and services. You can have that area completely overrun. It would turn into a locust mentality.
Let me put it this way. If 3 busloads of immigrants come into Milford and at 2 o'clock in the morning and they let off in Main Street, Milford, those 6 cops that work in that police department,
that's not enough.
Are not going to be able to control it.
Right.
And then what are we going to have?
So, ideally, the reason why I don't keep up with that issue is because it's not something that strikes me on an emotional level. But I know that you keep up with this quite a bit. And you and I were watching together the recent podcast that Joe Rogan did with Tim Dillon, the comedian Tim Dillon. And he made a really interesting point that really what it is cheap labor. And these companies keep getting found out hiring illegal immigrants because, they're illegal anyway. They don't have to pay them according to minimum wage laws or anything like that. I think, what didn't he say? Tyson Chicken got found out?
Tyson Chicken hired a lot of immigrants from some African nation that do the butchering.
Mm-hmm.
And when the INS invaded them, 3/4 of those people was illegal. They were running out of the building.
Is that what it is? The INS?
The Naturalization Service.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoever's
in charge of finding illegal immigrants. Right. I can't remember the 3 letters. There's a lot of alphabet groups.
Because the Americans are not taking the job.
Okay.
All right. Down in Texas, New Mexico, or down there, you can see them all the time coming over the border. The only problem is 10% of those people coming across the border belong to the cartel or some other organizations, and they're looking to bring this country down.
We don't know what percentage it is, but certainly there's some. It can't be 0.
No, it can't be 0. Most people come here for a better life, but then again, it's the corporation,
right?
Quote, corporation that's looking for cheap labor.
So, I think the point that I was getting at with the Tim Dillon thing, as far as, a lot of people would listen to you talk about the immigration issue. They might even call you xenophobic. They might say that about you. Ooh. But if you listen to the point that Tim Dillon made, every single corporation that's doing business here, that's producing any type of product, it's in their best interest to have a flood of illegal immigrants because it's a source of cheap labor. So my opinion, of course, about the American political system is that this is most likely a uniparty. And so the Democrats and the Republicans and they've proven this, they continue to allow the mass immigration, but they turn it into a political football so that they can look like they have different priorities. But I don't think they actually do.
Well, that's why the government only finds them money and don't close the business.
Exactly.
It's a crime. Okay, you committed the crime. Why don't we lock you up?
Right. Nobody ever seems to go to jail for these things.
No, but they'll pay the federal court
Right.
a fine.
Right.
They'll fine you rather than put you in jail. If you did it, I'll put you in handcuffs right away.
If I was running a business and they found out that I, had Mexicans in our basement hand stitching puppets for dollars at a,
Right.
I would most likely end up in jail.
Right, at least you'll be arrested.
That'd
then
be a
you got to
big
pay
deal.
your high-priced lawyer to get you out.
So and
He'll make a deal with the judge, and he'll hit you with a fine, and you'll walk out. And meanwhile, these guys that are making the puppets, they'll disappear, and you have to get a new bunch of immigrants.
it goes back to that old saying: the only crime in America is poverty. If you got money, you can pretty much get away with anything. You'll just end up losing a little bit of your money.
You were poverty at one age,
Mm-hmm.
a long, long time ago.
Sure.
You woke up.
Sure.
And you read, you found out what this real story was. So now you changed your attitude, and now you're in the position you're in because you woke up.
The biggest thing that I realized when I was younger is that the old American adage of hard work, elbow grease, and gumption is the way to get ahead. You work hard, you'll get ahead. That's a fucking lie.
That's bullshit.
That's the first thing I realized. That's a
bullshit.
lie. Go work hard.
I worked hard. You know how hard I work.
Sure.
All right.
You worked in the subway system for what, 20 years?
30 years.
30 years. Okay.
And I had 5 years in outside construction.
Yeah.
And then I fought for my freedom, and it took me 15, 20 years to get my freedom from the government.
Right.
So therefore, it's not how much money you make, it's how you keep it.
Well,
and that's the secret, how to keep your money.
I think it's what you do with it. If, there's this really funny scene in, are you familiar with the show 30 Rock? With
No.
not Tracy Almond. Jesus Christ. What's that really famous lady comedian? She did 30 Rock, and I don't fucking remember. Tina Fey. With Tina Fey.
No.
No? Okay. So, it's a comedy. She's producing a TV show for this big syndicate. And I think it's NBC actually. And, she's friends with the CEO, who's played by, who's that actor that shot that person recently? By accident on the set?
Oh, one of the Baldwin brothers.
Baldwin. Yeah. Alec Baldwin. So Alec Baldwin plays the CEO. It's a really great show. It's hilarious. And, they're talking, and she releases the information to him that she's not invested. And he looks at her and he goes, "Dear God, Lemon, you're not invested at all?" And she goes, "Well, maybe you can teach me how to do that thing that rich people do where they take money and they turn it into more money." And he's like, "What do you do with your money?" And she says, I have $12,000 in my checking account." I mean, that's the way most people think about it. It's supposed.
What's $12,000 today?
Oh, today it's nothing.
Not even the price of a car.
Today it's nothing. No, $12,000 doesn't get you shit. Please.
I don't want to ask you how much you got.
Well,
What's in your portfolio?
Well, listen, we're not.
Do you know?
Right now, my portfolio is about to get a little larger by one special item: Action Comics #1.
Oh, yeah, well, if we find that thing, we are going to be, I'm going to have to go over to your accountant and your lawyers, I'm going to have to find a way to hide my share.
Right. Just for context, we were talking a little bit about value the other day, and you brought in a couple of really old comic books, and I said, actually, Harry, these could be worth money, and you didn't believe. So I looked it up, and we have a very old something comic. I can't remember the name of it.
Flash.
Well, and then we have the Flash. So the Flash ended up, if it's in grade A condition, it's worth $150.
Right.
About. The other one that if it's in grade A condition, it's worth $50. Not even worth looking at, because it's not, the one we have is not in grade A condition. And then you were like, "Wow, it's $150." And
I gotta find the other one.
And so I was like, "Hey, man, some of these are worth millions of dollars," and I kind of feel like you didn't believe me.
I didn't believe you.
You didn't believe me.
No, I didn't believe you.
And you were talking to me about, you said, "Well, I have an old Superman comic." I was like, "Wait a sec, what do you mean an old Superman comic?" You're like, "Well, the first one Superman's in." And I was like, what? What the fuck did you just say to me?
It's in the room there.
What the fuck did you just say? So I show you a picture of Action Comics #1. I bring it up on the computer, and I'm like, does this look familiar to you? And you look at it and go, yeah, that's the one I have. It's in the room somewhere. I was like, I'm about to blow his fucking mind. So I look it up. Very reputable source for what these things go for. The company's called Wizard. And grade A condition, how much was this fucking comic book? If you can find it, how much is this fucking comic book worth?
I didn't know. You told me.
$6 million. As long as you got a buyer. $6 million. If this thing is in good shape. Now, I'm kind of guessing we find this thing and it's probably under an old coffee mug and is fucked up, or,
No, it's still in the package.
Still in the package?
Yeah.
All right, man. Dude. Holy shit.
You get your cut and I'll get my cut, and I'll build myself another bunker.
I'll get my lawyers and accountants on it.
And
I'll take care of it.
This bunker's small compared to what I plan to build.
Is that what you would do?
And I'll buy my half track.
Your half track.
My half track with the 20mm cannons on it.
Now I have never seen. You describe this to me all the time as like your dream military vehicle. I have never seen what one of these things looks like. So let's look at it.
Go to Harry's War.
Let's look at. Oh, is that the thing?
That's where it is.
That's what he has in Harry's War. Okay.
Harry's War.
Excuse me.
It's a half track.
All right, I want to see a picture of this thing. So what are we going to call it? Half-track military
it's
vehicle?
A half-track military, Harry's War.
Let's just do half-track military vehicle.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Nice. All right, let me open this, and I want to make that nice and big for. Damn it. I always want to have a nice big image, if I'm trying to show people something. Yeah. And I always get the small one. So let's go to large. And let's see. There you go. That's a mean looking piece of equipment right there. Open link.
And it's legal on the road.
Open in reading mode. What is this?
I may have to own a gas station with it, but...
Yeah, seriously. Open... whatever. God damn it. Oh, here you go. That's nice and big. Cancel. That's nice and big. There you go. Yeah, that's a mean looking piece of equipment. So if we find this Action Comics #1 here in the bunker, that's what you're gonna buy for yourself?
Yes.
And that's what you're gonna go get, like your groceries and your milk and everything, and drive around in that?
Maybe go to court with it.
Maybe go to court with it.
Walk out of the courtroom.
I don't think that's an intimidation tactic at all. I think it's an aesthetic preference.
Well, it depends if you have the gun turret on it. Now you're talking about the ATF, and you're going to have a machine gun on it.
Yeah.
And now you got to get involved with the ATF.
Yeah. See, I if I was in any trouble, I'd show up in court in that. And, you know, the lawyer, he shows up in to his trial in a half track. These are obvious intimidation tactics, Your Honor.
Boy.
And I would stand up and say, hey, listen, why did you buy your car? You bought it because you liked the way it looked. You liked the way it felt.
Right.
This vehicle, I like the way it looks.
I could ride in the snow with this.
There you go. It has purpose. You know, kind of like the Men's Warehouse commercial. I like the way I look.
Oh, I remember those commercials.
You're gonna like the way you look.
They were on the west side of Manhattan.
Yeah. Well, they were all over the place. Terrible suits. Oh my God. Never got a suit that fit right there. Ugh. But is what it is. So that's the first thing that you're buying.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna get. And then you're gonna make an even bigger bunker.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna make a bunker with about 4-foot walls.
So you're gonna try to make this thing like bomb proof.
Maybe like what's that? That one on TV, the Cheyenne Mountain.
I don't know anything about that. What's Cheyenne Mountain?
Mountain's in Wyoming.
Uh-huh.
And it's a military base.
Okay.
That was in the what was that thing? The one with the time travel, the Egyptian thing that you used to walk through.
Oh, you talking about Stargate?
Yeah, Stargate.
Okay.
That I think that's where Stargate was.
So that's where that was supposed to have taken
Cheyenne
place.
Mountain, a big military thing, and it's stuck out in Wyoming somewhere.
Okay. So I had a friend, Luke, and he was trying to convince me back when I was working and, you know, doing things, making moves in the real world. Now I'm largely retired from what the rest of you people consider reality. But he was trying to convince me to invest in pre-made military installations, because what happens is they build these underground bunkers. Some of them are as big as, you know, they're commune size. You can have 30 or 40 people.
That's the hotel out of Washington for Congress.
Okay.
They have one. There's an old super mansion, and underground they got a whole complex for all the congressmen and everything.
Well, there you go. But the military has a lot of these things all over the country that they don't use anymore. And now they're selling it as residential real estate. So, I mean, it's incredible to me how inexpensive some of these things were
compared to anything. That's why you got an old sack base,
but based on square footage alone.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was like, you know, there's like an underground base. It was like 14,000 square feet or something, right. Like 11 different bedrooms, communal kitchen, bathroom, etc. And it was selling for like $750,000. Right. It was crazy.
That is cheap today compared, but it would take like $1 or $2 million to convert it into a civilian type thing, and the only people buying it is corporations for their corporate leaders to hide them there. That when the shit hits the fan, we're gonna keep you alive, because when we come out, we're gonna own everything.
But dude, these things were up for sale for anybody.
Right.
If you had the money, you could buy it. So I mean, for me, would I rather live in a McMansion? It didn't look like it was a fixer upper. It was already livable.
Yeah,
it had been lived in by the military. They had used it, and they stopped using it. So there are bunks, there are cabinets, there is gas, there is electricity. You know, it's not like you were going to have to spend a ton of money to get it up to snuff or anything.
No, not that. Well, it's going to be a little different living. It's not going to be as fancy as some houses are, but it will be livable.
It'd be livable. So, I mean, for me, if I was going to blow $750,000, here's your choice. You want to get a McMansion out in Pennsylvania, or do you want an underground military base?
Then you'll be living out of Wyoming, North Dakota.
I don't care.
Out there.
I could be like, hey, I live in a fucking military base. Come get me. Just a sense of security would be nice. You can't even find me. That's awesome.
Oh, if they find you, you're going to have your little private army there. You're going to have your accountants and your bean counters and everything down there. Counting all your money.
Yeah.
You better get your money out of the bank.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. I was showing you some videos.
Because what they're going to do with the real estate now, BlackRock is buying all the houses and they're warehousing them, and they got 80% of the housing, and they're not selling them. They want to rent them. They want nothing but a nation of rented.
The wild thing is that they're actually pushing a bill through to divest these companies of residential real estate and make it illegal for them to use it as commercial assets, which... honestly, that seems like if that actually passes and that becomes law, that would be the first thing that our government has done to help the people at large in recent memory, any that I could remember.
30-40% of their housing that they own, if they would sell it, people would have housing. It won't belong to a corporation.
And the thing that they're doing is, like any corporation does, they overvalue their assets. And that's why everybody's rents are going sky high and nobody can afford to buy a house anymore.
Look at New York.
I can't see it from here.
New York had warehoused these places and gave prices that are outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
And now because of the pandemic and the COVID-19 and all that, they're empty and they're devaluing the things. And why do they charge super rent for a closet?
Well, they're not devaluing the New York City. Most of those really nice apartments are empty. Yes. That's where people that have as much money that when you get to a certain point, you have to buy something. Right. You can't keep your money.
Keep money.
You can't be like not Tracy Ullman. Jesus Christ! You can't be like Tina Fey's character in 30 Rock and have $12,000 in your checking account because you have so much. You can't have 1.5 in your checking account. You can't do. You have to buy something. You have to find a place to park your money. And you have to have an asset.
That's what the IRS code is all about. The IRS code is all about. If you got money and you're not doing anything with it, they tax it. Mm-hmm. So they force the rich people to spend it on something, anything. Buy a Hunter painting for $2 million.
Well, that's just laundering.
That's
straight
laundering.
Up.
But they do it all the time.
Right.
They buy a sculpture.
Right.
All right. For $1.2 million.
Well, with real estate, you're parking your money and it keeps the economy moving. You can't just hold it as liquid. It doesn't make any sense. You have to invest it so that it continues to work for you. But when you have so many wealthy people, organizations, and companies that are using residential real estate as an asset, residential real estate ends up at inflated prices, and you end up with a housing crisis. Now, we have plenty of homes for everybody. It's just nobody can afford to live in them.
Ted Turner had a Turner broadcasting thing, has 4 million acres to his name.
Okay.
Bill Gates just bought 3 million.
Well, he's just buying farmland.
He's buying farmland.
Yeah.
But he wants to control the price of food.
Yeah, that's
or put
weird.
The GMO food on the market so he kills us.
Now, wait a second. I'm going to have to beep that out because the last time I said something negative about Bill Gates, I was joking and they took my video off. So I am definitely going to have to beep out what you just said. That's unsubstantiated. So what we can talk about with Bill Gates is that it's a little weird that he wants to buy up so much farmland because he is definitely doing that.
And he's not a farmer.
But we can't make any claims about GMOs and their effects on people and health because we don't know. And Bill Gates is tied up in that. And this video will be taken down.
Could you imagine Bill Gates in a set of overalls?
Farming his land.
Green Acres, where you want to be.
Okay, so can I imagine it? Yes. Do I think it would ever happen? No. No.
And his wife ain't as pretty as the guy in Green Acres' wife.
Oh my God. Well, I think he's divorced now, isn't he? Isn't he?
Yeah, they
Melinda
went through
Gates.
a divorce.
Yeah, I think they're divorced. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not concerned enough about it to look it up.
Well, I know he got divorced. She's ugly. He's ugly. Their souls are ugly. Their hearts are ugly. Do I like the guy? Hell no.
Oh my God. Yeah. We're gonna take a quick break. I need to get a drink. I'll be right back.
Okay, go get a drink.
Yeah, I need to get. So I mean, you're talking about their hearts are ugly, their souls are ugly. I don't disagree with you. I really don't understand people. And we were talking about this, I think, just before we got set up for the podcast. It's scary to me, generally speaking. And I am not trying to blow sunshine up my own ass at all. This is just my experience when dealing with people. It seems like I'm living in a world where every single human being that I meet basically operates on a transactional system. They simply look at what is going to give them the greatest benefit, and they do that thing. They're extremely predictable. I just finished watching the series Succession. At first, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it was a little boring. The characters seemed a little overdone to me, but I watched it through. It's actually pretty good, and I liked the way that it ended. It seemed it couldn't end any other way. But no spoilers. Go watch it. It's pretty good. I mean, it seems strange to me that when I try to pin down other people's motivations, why they act the ways that they act, why they do the things that they do, I'll inevitably end up at a conclusion that's very, very, very simple that terrifies me. And then in my mind, I'll overcomplicate why they're doing what they're doing. I say, well, it has to be some sort of childhood trauma, or something that happened in their past, or some unachievable goal that's preternaturally sitting in their preconscious mind. But no, generally speaking, the conclusion that I come to first, like, oh, they're just pretending to be a certain way while they make this entire situation transactional to their benefit. Generally speaking, those conclusions, they seem to be correct.
Of course. Remember Braveheart? Remember when Wallace said to the warlords, you may have freedom, but they will come for you and your children will not have freedom.
Oh, he's given the speech. Would you trade every day from now until your own end for just one chance at freedom? Someday when you're old and your children are grown and you're warm in your bed, would you trade all those days for one chance at freedom? Right.
Now, freedom costs. It will have to cost you something.
Well,
you got to make that choice.
Individuality itself has a price.
Oh, of course.
But, I mean, as far as freedom goes, Jesus Christ, I love the quote Brett Weinstein said, I want to live in a country good enough that I could call myself a conservative. You know what I mean?
Well, you do what you have to do to make yourself comfortable, but if you're so self-centered that you don't see yourself as a prisoner, then in your mind you're not a prisoner. You're not a POW, prisoner of work.
Right.
And all the information I give people, I give it to them and they look at it, they say it sounds good, but they're not willing to pay the price.
Well, you do understand that you paid an incredible price.
Yeah.
And I mean, you paid such a steep price that it's arguable that what you consider your freedom today, I mean, that transaction might not seem like it's worth it to a lot of people.
To some people, it's not.
Right. To you, it was. But, I mean, don't you get that sense about people that their motivations are so crystal clear, so disgustingly
Simple.
obvious and simple?
Yes. I want to survive, and this is the best way to survive without a conflict, without any problems. I have no problems. I'm happy with what little I have.
Yeah. And we were talking about this, too, before I got the podcast set up. Here, I'll put this over here. We were talking about this, too. It's a very natural thing in primate societies, and we are primates, to fit in with the tribe in order to survive. It's a survival instinct. But for me, myself, even when I was very young, if I ever found myself, which didn't typically happen, if I ever found myself doing something where I blended in with my surroundings, it felt internally like dying. It felt like death. And anytime I did something that made me stand out in any way, whether it was something earned or just a preoccupation or even aesthetic choices, that made me feel more alive, more aware.
Your energy became alive. The real you came alive, and you allowed it out. And you say, this is me. I'm not part of the tribe. I have something different to offer you.
Do you think that really just comes down to fear? I mean, are people so, because I mean, historically, standing out, not a great thing. I mean, you're going to be scrutinized. You're going to be, the more attention that you have on you, I mean, you can certainly use it to your advantage, but generally speaking, like, hey, all the Jews raise your hand. Okay, great. There you all are. I mean, historically, we know what's going to happen next.
Yes.
It's not a great survival mechanism to stand out.
No, if you want it, it's fear of the unknown and what the consequences are. Everybody has a consequence to what they have to do. And sometimes it's unknown, and you don't know what's going to become of it.
You don't know what the price is going to be until you do it sometimes.
I know if I step in the ring with George Foreman, even though he's an old man, and he hits me once, he's taking my head off. So I know that rules.
Right.
But if I fight somebody that I don't know, I got to second guess them or I got to know them.
Right.
So therefore, you learn about your enemies before you get into the conflict.
And I know you did a lot of research on the IRS before you decided to wage that battle, but even so, you went into that conflict without knowing what the ultimate end would be.
It was a crapshoot.
Yeah. I mean, you can try to educate yourself as much as possible, but you still don't know what the result will be until you try.
You don't know what they're willing to do, and if they do dirty tricks on you, there's no one to protect you.
Right.
Nobody. The court system's not going to protect you.
No. And we had this discussion too, where I think a lot of the times when you say things are black and white, there's no gray, this is the letter of the law, this is what the law says, etc., etc., that's not the way the world works.
Well, that's the challenge.
That's the illusion that they give all of us to make us feel safe, but that's not the way the world works. The world works on power dynamics.
We know that.
It works on power dynamics, power brokering. That's the way it is.
And if I'm not going to back down because I'm willing to take the chance. And if I win, I win. If I lose, I learn something.
Right. I mean, even something simple like last week, Talking Head and I were talking about Starbucks. And he brought up, just to catch anybody up who's listening to this, Starbucks, I hated Starbucks when it came out. I tasted it. I said, oh, this tastes terrible. Tried it again. Said, I don't understand why this is becoming so popular. I don't get it. This is back in the 90s when they were just popping up all their stores all over the place. And I was like, I don't like this coffee. Everybody's like, you're crazy. It's the best thing ever. Well, it turns out, because Talking Head fixes ovens and shit, so he got the inside scoop on Starbucks' business model. They do purposefully burn their coffee beans in order to create what they call a robust flavor, in order to make them stand out from other coffees. But anybody who's a coffee snob that really likes coffee...
Like a wine snob.
It's not good coffee. It's bad coffee. And so basically what they just did was create an in-group. So I'm sitting here looking at it. If you wanted to replace that in-group with the concept of power dynamics and power brokering, basically everybody in America says Starbucks is the greatest thing ever. I'm the one person saying, nope, I think this is shitty. I got proven right. Everybody else got proven wrong. I got proven right. But that's not the way the world works. On paper, Starbucks' business model sucks because their coffee sucks. But they're still very successful.
Your coffee's what, that Puerto Rican coffee you drink?
Yeah. Cafe, I think it's Cafe Bustelo.
I can't drink that. Mm-hmm. But I like Folgers or U-Band coffee.
Right, because you have no taste.
Because I make brown water.
Dude, if I hold up your coffee in a glass and I look through it, I could see you across the room through the glass. That's how weak your coffee is.
No, I got
you have the Cafe Americano taste.
Yeah. Well, I had the military coffee, and the military coffee was like your coffee, your Puerto Rican coffee.
Oh, was it?
It makes your hair stand then. Maybe you should drink it, grow some hair on your head.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Oh,
you son of a bitch. Listen, man, the reason why I wear a hat in all the podcasts, so the ladies think I actually have hair.
No.
And you are destroying the illusion.
Well, they loved Hugh Brenner, too.
Who's Hugh Brenner?
Hugh Brenner was a movie star.
Was he bald?
The King and I.
Ooh, yeah. But wasn't
he had hair on his head then.
Yeah, but wasn't he just bald for that one role?
Yes.
He was actually bald. He wasn't actually bald.
No, he shaved his head, but in the old Cowboys Forget Me westerns, he had hair on his head.
Yeah, so that's a completely different thing.
The Westworld, with the robots that he was in there, he had hair on his head.
Wait a second, you watched Westworld?
No, he was in Westworld, and he played the King and I.
Yeah, but you watched Westworld?
Yeah.
You got into that?
I watched it, but early beginning...
I love that show. I didn't know you watched that.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of strange stuff. But he had hair on his head when he started out.
Yeah.
But once he after the King and I, he stayed bald.
Okay.
He found out it worked for him.
So the ladies like...
right into the character.
The ladies liked the look, so he kept it up.
Right.
Okay. See, I'm more like a Jason Statham sort of character. Except I'm ugly, so me going bald was not a choice, and also I happen to not be good looking, so it really doesn't work, so I put the hat on. And you're calling me out. I don't really appreciate that.
Well, I'm going to have a bishop's crown soon. I got a big nose. I had a tire blow up in my face.
Oh, you had a tire?
Those split rim tires?
Yeah.
I had it blow up in my face.
Broke your nose?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
2 black eyes and the whole bit.
Oh, did you have to have surgery?
No. I just put a Band-Aid on my nose.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. When I got this scar here and all down here, what happened was I got a little drunk, surprise, and I was making out with a dog. It was my friend's dog. I was making out with him, like, oh,
his ugly sister,
and he was giving me some warning signs.
Oh,
like, and I was like, oh, you like me, and turns out I was wrong, dude, it was so fast. I heard a snap.
Yeah,
and then I'm looking down at the floor, and there's
there's
a puddle of blood, man. My top lip was basically split in half. It was crazy. So anyway, I go to the doctor, right? Still half drunk.
Right.
We go to the hospital and she goes, well, you know, we're going to clean out the wounds and everything, but you're going to have to come back tomorrow to get stitched up. And I said, why? That seems a little like not good. And she goes, well, the plastic surgeon isn't in until tomorrow. And I said, the what now? She said, the plastic surgeon. And I said, do you know how to do stitches? And she said, well, yeah, I could do them, but you're going to end up with a big scar. I said, okay, let's go. Is my lip going to work? Will I be able to talk? She goes, yeah, you'll be able to talk. It'll
You're
work.
not a movie star.
Yeah, it was like, my fucking modeling days are over. You can already see I'm bald. You can already see I'm getting old. Well, at this point, I was like in my early 30s, but I mean, I'm not a model.
Right.
It's not happening for me, you know? So let's get my face fixed up, motherfucker. Let's do this. Why am I going to pay a plastic surgeon X amount of dollars to like, let's make sure your scar is very small so all the ladies will not know that you were making out with a dog.
Pump up the bill.
Yeah. She didn't even ask me, though. She just assumed. She said, yeah, you're going to have to go home with your face split wide open. And, you know, try not to get an infection. Come back tomorrow.
I'll tell you what the scariest thing, dude, is when the guy, they got on in a battlefield, they have to sew themselves up with needle and thread.
Mm-hmm.
And they have scars, and they give them in the first aid kits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that they learn to do that.
I could do that. That doesn't bother me. I think I proved that the other night when I was putting cigars out on my hand as a party trick. Yeah. I had blisters for a while. They're gone now. Healed up pretty good. But there's no... I don't know. There's no identity anymore between me and my physical... I feel pain, obviously, but I know it's not me. It kind of feels like some sort of diving apparatus that I'm controlling and experiencing reality through. It's not, you know, it's not, oh my God, my arm. Oh my God, my hand. It's not me. It's my arm, my hand. You know what I mean? So like the first time I had to get stitches, I'll never forget this. I'm sitting there and I think I was like 14 and she starts stitching me up and it's an Indian woman. And by the time she was done stitching me up, she's like, you may want to look away. I said, nah, I want to see this. This is actually pretty interesting, in my opinion. I've never had this done before. So she's stitching me up, and I swear to God, Harry, by the time she was done stitching up my arm, and it was like deep enough you could see like the tendons moving around and shit when I moved my fingers. By the time she got done stitching me up, she was paler than I was. She was as white as a ghost. Yeah. And I just thought it was interesting. It doesn't bother me, you know?
You should have been an undertaker.
I almost went to school to do that, and then I realized, at the time I was looking into it, I was a photographer, and I realized that they make less money than photographers, and you have to go to like all sorts of school and all that bullshit. So you end up with a lot of debt.
What they do with today, they take these little metal things and they put in your skin. Then they take crazy glue and they put it in there and it seals your skin.
Well, actually, I used, that second skin stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff works really good. I split my scalp open one morning and, dude, it was instantaneous. I looked in the mirror. So I bent over to pick something up and I stood up too fast and I hit my head on something. And I looked in the mirror. Instantly, I looked like a fucking murder victim.
Do you know?
It was all over.
Do you know on the center of your head, there's one spot that's only this big.
Yeah.
If you hit it direct, you die instantaneous in the head.
Yeah.
And it is where the stem goes, you die.
Really?
And it's a death blow.
That's pretty cool.
And that's like the alligators. The alligators have that little 2-inch center in their head. That's why when they go alligator and they shoot in there, and that kills the alligator right away.
Yeah.
It's like a nerve center.
Yeah, different. A bullet's a little different than getting hit. I mean, if you're a well-developed adult human being, your skull shouldn't have any soft patches or anything.
Well, if for that one spot, it's a little soft.
Huh. All right. I'll take your word for it.
Believe me, the Navy SEALs definitely know about it.
I have no doubt
They
about
got 11 ways to kill you with their thumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you got to fear most. Guys that go through that shit, they've been well trained, and sometimes they come home, they got to be deprogrammed. They got to deprogram these guys because they're
wound up.
They're wired.
Yeah. It's kind of like the whole Jason Bourne thing.
Yeah.
Those movies. He's just got wound up so tightly he lost his memory and couldn't deal with the shit he was doing and all that.
Yeah.
Well,
that's government workers for you.
At least they're starting to experiment with psychedelics to treat PTSD and all that. That's interesting. They seem to be having a lot of success with that.
Well, you don't know, unless you've gone through some terrific experience, you don't even know what these people seen or experienced.
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
I just seen the end of it, but I didn't see what really went on there. And some of these guys, they are a little wacko.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you push their button, it's over with. They go into a different mold.
Sure.
Different character.
Well, I mean, you know, it's probably a lot like that scene in Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise, where he's the firecrackers during the parade, and he starts to have a flashback. He starts twitching, you know, it takes him back to combat.
We got a lot of guys up here that they do that.
Yeah.
Or helicopters. Whoop, 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 whoop. And all of a sudden they're looking up like that because they remember.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. You did serve our nation in let me ask you a couple questions, because you served our nation in the Vietnam War.
I during the Vietnam War.
You what?
I was very safe.
Yeah, no, I know. But you still served.
I served in the military.
But I mean, I know how you feel about that war now. So let me ask you, first question, this interest. I never asked you this before. What does it make you feel when somebody finds out that you're a veteran and they say thank you for your service? What does that make you feel?
I take it with a grain of salt. I don't want a pat in the back.
Right.
I did what I had to do at the time what I thought was right.
Right.
I don't want no congratulations.
Right.
I was one of many.
Sure.
I don't deserve any more than anybody else does.
And nowadays, you're not even... I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you had to do it all over again, you would have chosen not to serve, right?
Back then, I was a stupid kid who believed in John Wayne and America was right, and we waved the flag, and I didn't know the politics that went on behind the war.
Right.
Today, I would have to question it, but I wouldn't know unless you attack this country direct.
Right.
I'll be on the front line.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to send me to some foreign country, I'm going to die there, and we'll come
for
back
somebody else's profit.
Right. My son went chase Noriega down in Central America.
Yeah, he told me about
with
that.
13 Mike, and he went there.
And Noriega is the drug cartel leader
down in Central America.
Right.
My father was in the Philippines in the 1943, with the Army Air Corps.
Okay.
He had a bullet go through his helmet, spin around, and out.
You think that's why he was a little fucked up?
I think he got a little hard. I had an uncle that was in a tank corps.
Yeah, it could have been a little brain damage, too.
Yeah. Uncle that had lost his toe in the tank corps.
Yeah.
Yeah, a German 88 went right through the turret, and he was the top guy.
Okay.
And he lost that. But as far as a war today is politics. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to fight a war, let's fight the war and do it right.
And you know what? Politics, I mean, if you look up the definition, it really comes down to power brokering. That's all politics is.
Well, what did Patton say? We're not going to pay twice for this piece of real estate.
Yeah. What does that mean?
And that's the way real military people do it.
What do you mean we're not going to pay twice for this piece of real estate? What do you mean by that?
Back in Nam, they used to take a hill from Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie occupy it again, and you come again.
And it's that sort of story that I hear over and over again from Vietnam vets that convinced them that our government did not want us to win that conflict. They wanted to spend money.
It's not the question of money. In 1948, Ho Chi Minh asked us for help to get rid of the French.
Okay.
We said we couldn't do it because they fought in World War II against the Germans. So now Ho Chi Minh was the George Washington of Vietnam. And when they said that bullshit about we're going to change Vietnam into a communist country, that's what they wanted to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So we put a puppet government in.
Right.
Just like the Shah of Iran was a puppet government.
Right.
Right? And it all involves around the CIA getting involved with politics of the country.
But what I'm saying is that once we were involved in that conflict, the consensus seemed from people who talk about this that it was profitable, so they wanted to make sure it went on for as long as possible.
Yep.
They didn't want to win.
Yep. I think in '67, when the movie Soldiers were out, and that the guy who played Braveheart, he played the general there.
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson.
I'm not familiar.
He said, "I'll be the first one to step on the ground and the last one to leave, and I won't leave none of you behind."
Okay.
And that was Colonel Moore.
Okay.
And that was the most realistic movie in combat.
What was it called again?
What was
Soldiers.
It?
Soldiers. Mel Gibson.
And he makes some realistic pictures.
Yeah.
And that was back in the Silicon Valley in 1967.
Okay.
So we wasted, we had a lot of our best young men die in a conflict that, why are we there?
Right.
They come back all screwed up.
Right.
A lot of come back with drug addicts.
Mm-hmm.
They were screwed up in the head. And then the people, they just don't, they don't care.
Right.
Same thing with the Deer Hunter. With De Niro.
I hate that movie.
Why do you hate that movie?
It's typical of 70s cinema, where you're never going to have a cut scene on camera. If a guy's putting his shoes on and tying his shoes, you get to sit down and watch him put on his shoes and tie his shoes and brush his teeth. It's like in the early 70s cinema, the fucking directors didn't believe in doing any cuts. It's just, to me, it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with the story. I'm sure the story's great. I just can't watch it. It's so boring.
Well, that's what it is, and everybody believed that was the right thing to do.
Right. No, so that movie is about the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
It is? Okay.
Silicon Valley was in the when the French were there in '54, and they got out of Vietnam.
Yeah, so I don't hate that movie on any ideological basis. I actually don't remember what the story's about. I just hate it as a piece of art. I can't stand the way it's filmed. So I can't even remember it. I just hate it.
The thing is, even the wars today, they're all politics, and we have to get rid of the politics out of the war. And if it's for the interest of the country and it's a real enemy, then do it. But if it's going to be for profit and corporation, send your children. I'm not going to send my son to war to die for you. Old men make wars and young men die.
Well, yeah, exactly. Put your money where your mouth is, right? I mean, I didn't create any of this conflict. I'm certainly not going to go put my life on the line, and I'm not going to take anybody else's life. I'm just not fucking doing it. Well, and it's terrifying to me when, we were talking about earlier how crystal clear people's motivations are and everything is basically transactional. And it's really terrifying when you can see through people that immediately, and then you say to yourself, oh yeah, but that's the same type of person who's in charge of everything as well. It's a straight up transaction. There's no higher calling. There's no ideology. There's no intelligence. There's certainly no emotional intelligence behind it. There's no philosophical thought to it. It's simply about expanding corporate interests across the globe.
We have to watch this Israel mosque thing.
Why? Why do we have to watch it?
Because it could lead into something real ugly around the world.
No, they said the same thing about Ukraine. Listen, man, the reason why when people say we have to watch this very carefully or you have to be scared, be very scared, I don't take it seriously anymore because they're giving us something new to be scared about every fucking week. And they've been doing that since the 90s. Now, which is as early as my memory goes. Now, has it escalated? Of course it has. Now you have 3 new things a day to be terrified of. But they were saying that if Ukraine didn't win this conflict, if this conflict in Ukraine was not won and we didn't support them, it was going to be slavery for the entire world under the Russian rule. And hey, man, now all of a sudden we're not giving them a whole lot of support anymore because we got this Israel thing. Yeah. And hey, guess what's not happening? Russia isn't going to take over the world. It looks like it was just an isolated conflict. So tell me why this Israel-Palestine thing, tell me why this is any different. Why is this worthy of my fear?
The Russians don't want the Ukraine to join NATO.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want NATO at their borders.
Exactly.
And that's basically what it is.
And the whole thing was politically motivated. Yeah, exactly. We pushed and pushed and pushed, and Russia said, all right, I guess we got to do something. And then we made a shitload of money. We had a wealth transfer where we created a whole bunch of printed money, put it into the hands of the weapons manufacturers and the military-industrial complex, and the American taxpayers are eventually going to have to pay all that shit back. So
your children are going to pay it back.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be gone. You may be gone.
I'm not going to have any children.
Oh, well, I don't know if you got your thing tied in or not.
I'm waiting.
I can't produce any more children. I got snipped.
I'm waiting for artificial human companions.
Oh, okay.
I will have an android wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Android wife
yes.
That you don't have to pay alimony to.
But explain. Yes, exactly. But explain to me. So you're saying we really have to watch the Palestine-Israel conflict because this could turn into something very serious the globe over. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe I'm not seeing it. Explain to me why this is worth focusing my fear on. Why should I worry about
this? The Jews will use the atomic bomb.
Do they have one?
Yes. They have about 67 of them of last about 10 years ago.
So you're saying that the state of Israel actually does have a nuclear arsenal?
Nuclear arsenal.
Oh, that's something I didn't know. Right. So
we gave it to them.
Hey, listen, keep educating me. What else?
We gave it to them when they went to West Point, and they were allowed to extract some of our information. And the guys in West Point were told to stand down. So
why else should I be concerned about this conflict?
Because, first of all, if they do drop a nuclear bomb, then all the Muslim countries are going to rise up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be another world war.
Oh, you think?
All right. And nuclear war, they don't care who you are. They'll take you out. I don't care if you're half... Remember Chernobyl when they blew up?
I do.
All right. It went half through Europe.
Oh, yeah. No, nuclear war is terrible. But, I mean... Do you really think the Israeli government's going to drop nuclear bombs that close to their own country? I mean, it would destroy their country.
Yes, they would.
Okay.
But as far as the members of the Mossad...
I mean, they certainly can't be dropping nuclear missiles in the Gaza Strip.
No.
Okay, so, I mean, where are they going to drop them? Iran? That's a little too close to home, isn't it?
No, Iran is ready to drop it.
Oh, do you really think Iran has a nuclear bomb?
I think they're working on it. Pakistan has it.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
But you know what? That will take out everybody in that area.
I mean, this is an old argument,
Right,
but I think that what's more terrifying than nuclear weapons, I wouldn't say more terrifying, but just as terrifying and easier to accomplish is germ and chemical warfare.
Right. Dirty bombs.
Well, dirty bombs are basically portable nukes.
Yes.
But I'm talking about germ and chemical warfare. I mean, that's more concerning because it's so much easier to get that going.
Well, do you remember Japan when that guy did the subway in Japan?
No.
He put Saranac in the subways in Japan.
Okay.
All right, that's easy to get.
I don't know what Saranac is. You mean
Saranac
cyanide?
is like
cyanide?
Not cyanide.
Saranac.
It's like anthrax.
Anthrax. Okay.
It's like anthrax.
All right, I got you.
It's much easier to transport that in
than a fucking nuke.
Right.
Yeah.
You have somebody carrying a knapsack before that, and they exploded between 42nd Street and Grand Central Station during rush hour. I mean...
Or create a super virus.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, then you only have to release it in one highly populated area, and, you just sit back and wait, and it's going to spread over the whole world. I mean, that's basically a lot of movies have that theme, but my favorite, personally, is 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
You remember that movie?
I remember that movie.
There you go. One guy had a super virus, and he had some sort of misguided ideology that he felt like human beings were evil and the animals should rule the planet, and he releases a virus that kills the entire fucking human race and chases us underground. See, something like that seems to me so easy to do. It's incredible to me that it hasn't been done yet. If I'm going to focus my fear and my worry on something, I'm going to focus on that scenario.
But then again, he's sacrificing himself too.
Exactly. Yes.
It's like carrying a bomb.
And the guy in 12 Monkeys, that's why he had to have some sort of perverted ideology in order to do it. Because, he's human. He's sacrificing himself as well. Yeah.
Some people are willing to sacrifice that.
What's that fucking thing that I showed you earlier? I think I showed you yesterday that Joe sent me. It was a headline. Hang on. So I think this is a real headline. I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure it's a real headline.
See, I got all this shit in my head. And I don't have any nice things in my head. Like a lot of people, they walk around with rose-colored glasses and they're celebrating everything.
Right.
And in 3 days, we're going to be celebrating a holiday from someone being born who is going to save the world.
Oh, is he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Good.
The Savior's coming.
The Savior's coming.
3/4 of the world.
That sounds a little perverted to say it like that. The Savior's coming.
Right. But that was written in the Old Testament, and this is all the hope of the Jewish people. The Messiah is coming, and a lot of people have bought into it.
Right.
And nothing has changed.
Well, I think Talking Head and I did a podcast on this. Anybody that needs a savior needs a mommy and daddy figure because they're not grown up. You need to fucking save yourselves.
Well, Jesse the Body Ventura also says religion is a weakness. All right, if you need something to save yourself, maybe you're not thinking. Maybe you're not looking at the real inside what you are.
I don't see any difference between waiting for Jesus to come back and save the mess that
I
we're
didn't say his name.
Creating. Who?
I didn't say his name. You did.
Oh, Jeebus? I'll say Jeebus. I don't care. It's not like Voldemort. Okay. I don't give a fuck. Jeebus. Fuck him. There's no difference between that, in my opinion, waiting for him to come back and save us from the mess that not only did we make, but we are still currently making. There's no difference between that and saying, well, we got to get Donald Trump in office with all the QAnon assholes because he's going to clean it up.
You comparing Donald Trump?
To Jeebus? He's the QAnon Jeebus.
Well, a lot of people believe that.
Donald Trump, people are so wrapped up in him. And I get it. Because he is not the deep state. He is like, they see him as like an outsider, a populist. Right. I get it. But I'm not fucking naive enough to think that he has anything on his plate other than his own self-interest. That's what he is, just like everybody else. He just happens not to be part of the deep state. That's it. That's the only difference. So it's kind of like, to me, like Jeebus is going to come back and save us, or we got to get Donald Trump in office to save us. It reminds me of this story. Somebody lived in a community that had a dog park, okay? The fence was broken. The fence got destroyed at a certain point, and you couldn't bring your dog to the dog park anymore because your dog would get out of the fence, okay? And everybody kept complaining. When are they would post on Facebook, when is somebody going to get over here and fix this fence, blah, blah, blah. My friend said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go fix that fucking fence. Didn't cost him any money. Right. Just had to put up some wire. It was just a hole in the fence.
Right.
Looped it up, and then he brought his dog there. And he just did it. He didn't wait for somebody to do it. He just did it.
Don't let George do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's just like when on these roads up here. If I see a tree across the road and the road stopped, I'm going to put my chainsaw out of the truck, and I'm going to cut up that tree, and I'm going to throw the tree on there. I'm going to free the road up. The hell with PennDOT.
Right.
Screw PennDOT.
Oh, PennDOT is historically such a shitty organization. It's amazing. They are so inept.
Now, what's going to happen is the town supervisor is going to come and say, you can't do that. That's not your property. That's not your responsibility.
Oh, fuck them. I live here. It's my responsibility.
Right.
Yeah. I travel this road just like everybody else. It's easy for me to fix. I'm going to fix it.
Right.
Just like the dog park. Now, I'm not saying that the government's easy to fix. But hey, maybe instead of putting all your energy into Donald Trump, you want to fix things, maybe you run for office.
Maybe fix yourself first.
Fix yourself and you run. Well, I'm not smart enough. I don't have the background.
Oh.
Well, hey, make yourself. You got all these ideas. You see all the things that are wrong. Maybe you're smarter than you think you are.
You can make a change for you and yourself.
And
somebody else.
And somebody else. Sure. So maybe you run instead of just complaining about it and voting for other assholes.
If you make a stink about it and you get the confrontation, you're going to talk to some people about it, and then they're going to get about it, and they're going to think about it.
Sure. Absolutely. And that is what we do here at the New World Order.
Well, that's right. That's sure. Well, you're trying to educate them. I'm trying to educate them. And
I don't think I'm trying to do anything.
Well, I think you're trying to educate them.
You're
making them aware. We're waking them up. And
you know what?
I'm doing what I can do to wake people up.
I like getting on camera and bitching about shit. I enjoy it. I don't think I'm going to change anybody's life.
Well, I hope you change somebody. But the only difference, I make a confrontation with them. If I get in someone's face, I'm going to get in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And I will make a change one way or the other. You're going to hate me or you're going to love me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make a statement.
Right.
And you're going to read it. And you're going to know it.
Well.
Just like the people who are coming now. Very few people come to me. Because, again, they don't understand. They don't understand, or they're afraid of what I'm telling them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do I make a difference in anybody's life? I hope so.
Well, you got to understand something, man. There was a long period of time where you would start talking to me about the IRS before I even had a cup of coffee in my system. I just woke up. I mean, I was sitting in a fairy tale land with pixies and mermaids, and I was dancing on unicorn rainbows that were shitting cookie dough out of their ass, and I was eating it straight from the tube. And I haven't even had coffee yet. And you just like, as soon as I'm walking to the bathroom from my unicorn fairy tale land.
Press my button.
Hey, you know what the IRS... Oh, man, I can't deal with this right now. I can't deal with...
Why do you say now?
You don't do that to me anymore.
No.
No, you let me wake up a little.
But I don't. This is what I've been doing for 20, 30 years.
Hey, man, you can be a bit much, but I love you. I love the way your mind works, and I love having these conversations with you. I think it's fantastic.
Now, people subscribe to the New World Order, and you get a hell of a lot more information from us.
Hey, I have no desire to wake you up or make your life better in any way. Subscribe to the New World Order, because the more eyeballs I get here, I can make more money before the inevitable end of the empire, before your human race shatters, the bullshit that is human leadership crumbles. And by the time AI has taken over your feeble little minds and your feeble little world, I will have made some more money and enjoyed myself, screaming on camera like a fucking lunatic. Thank you so much for watching the New World Order, and just remember, we're watching you too.
So